Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Jean is looking at the future role of midlife women in our society. Sit back and enjoy today's show. Learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
Hello, this is Jean Macdonald, the Midlife Woman's friend and mentor. And this is number 4, or the 4th episode, in my talks about midlife women. And today I've given the title, The Future is Feminine, but Good Men Can Play Too. Now, I mentioned this is a controversial title because what I'm going to be talking about is a very controversial subject. And my views are only my views. I'm exposing them to you in the hope that something will resonate and we can take things forward from there. So, firstly, let's deal with the gender issues that are around this thing. Why putting in there the future is feminine and apparently excluding men, but I've made the point of saying it, but they are included if they're up to it, is controversial because we have a war of the genders, which has been going on for 3,000 years, actually, with the masculine being the dominant one throughout that period. So male attitudes, unfortunately, are passed on generation to generation from older men to younger ones that disadvantage women and children. And it's been done, as I said, for 3,000 years, at least as far as we know. Now, it's done the feminine down by the masculine, and it's really, to me, amazing that women have managed to survive at all with this local and institutionalized discrimination against them. In fact, this issue of survival is a serious thing that occurred to me is that when I attended the first Women's Equality Party conference a few years ago, at one point, they put on the screen the names of all the women who had been murdered by their partner. I say murdered, I think it said killed, because some of them might have been considered to be manslaughter, killed by their partner in that year so far. And the list went on and on and on. And in case you think this is all localized to certain ethnic communities, the names were of all sorts and plenty fully local British names. So it's not any particular group in our society, it's pretty widespread. So it's not meant to be like this. At a metaphysical level, there are two elements, masculine and feminine. And they are supposed to combine and balance to provide a creative force. And that creative force is manifest in men and women, but they only use it really to create babies and families. They could, if they worked together rather than being in competition or embattled, they could build civilizations. And that's what I hope we might be starting to move towards, So the progress that we can see has been set back by certain examples. I'll give you one, which is really unbelievable. It's how long it's taken the Church of England to accept women bishops. And if I remember right, there was an equally long battle to get them even to accept women vicars. And yet, from everything which I shall be talking about, it's very probable that women make better bishops and better vicars than men on the whole. So it's an indication of how institutionalized misogyny is in our society. That battle was fought in public, but there are many other battles going on behind closed doors, and we don't know how likely they are to come out the right way. Now, what progress can we see in recent years? Well, one of the visible examples is that there has been the feminist movement. Not perfect, but it has started a process in the 70s and 80s. But at one stage, unfortunately, it went rather wrong. And that was because it accepted the precept, which probably came from the men, that for a woman to be equal, she had to behave in the same way as men. Now, as I shall say later on, that's not valid. But they believed it. And as a result, during the 70s and 80s, you saw a lot of women obviously masculinizing themselves in order to feel that they could compete on equal terms with men. Well, in the same time, actually, a guy, an American, wrote a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That was John Gray. And the book enjoyed brief popularity, but was discredited by the feminists who said that it was giving the impression that women were not up to it. They were not up to taking on the roles that were currently held by men. And I think many of those people hadn't even read the book, because that was not what he was saying. And I did my best to try and rehabilitate that in a video I did a little while ago, which is called Men, how shall I put it? Women and men are different. And that was the point John Gray was making. It's not a question of you have to be the same in order to be equal. You can be different and have equal opportunity. So that is one of the issues that we've had to deal with. And as a result, a lot of women frightened a lot of men. It may have done them some good, this masculinization in their professions or their careers, but in terms of their relationships, it was counterproductive. So we can see some stellar examples of how women have taken, let's call it the reins of power. We can see that some formidable women are working in the public service, in the voluntary sector, in the police, and also in politics. So far, don't think there's anything like as much progress in business, but that's why business is one of those closed doors jobs where the institutionalized misogyny is invisible to the general public. What you do see is the poor results of these big companies, because if they had a group of women on their boards, their results would be better. And there are statistics to prove that businesses that have women on their boards, not just one token one, but a group of them, do better than the ones who don't. But let's go back to politics. It's dramatically obvious that women do a good job in that. We can see that among the prime ministers in Scandinavia, also New Zealand, also Germany, and Scotland. Now, women's style in leadership is to look for agreement and cooperation, and that's a reflection of their feminine skills. What I was going to say is women don't always have to be right when they're in leadership positions just to prove they're capable to do the job. But because of their inclination to consult, cooperate, they won't be as wrong many times as men are. Now, I wanted to quote Margaret Thatcher, just a short little quote that shows what she thought of women in positions of power and influence as colleagues and supporters. And that was, she said, if I want something talked about, I'll ask a man. But if I want something done, I'll ask a woman. Now, when she said talked, she wasn't being disparaging. In politics, there's an awful lot of talking goes on to find out what opinions are like and what the likelihood is of something being accepted. So it's a legitimate role, but very interesting that when it came to getting things done, then that's when she went to a woman. Now, we are looking not just for more women to take leadership roles. Of course, we want more of those, but we also want more supporters, colleagues, and supporters and colleagues, because women work best in groups. In fact, a group of women together on the same project is a formidable force. I've seen that in the Women's Equality Party, and it is wonderful to see. But I'm sure it happens in many other areas where there is a group of women working together. And very often, if the woman is a leader, the leader is a woman, and she's the right kind of woman, she's quite self-effacing. She doesn't want to have the glory of being standing in front, and that's what gets better results. Unfortunately, women who are trapped in macho organizations and are on their own without this group tend to get sufficiently pressed into the culture that they start behaving in a macho way. That's not an excuse, but it's a reason why you do come across some women in power who are behaving remarkably like men. And also, if you go back to the 70s and 80s, that's where they got the culture from. One of the things that men do to discredit women and their capabilities is they call what they can do soft skills. And what they mean by that is that the hard skills, which are very macho, are the ones that are valuable, the soft skills aren't. Well, the soft skills is what enables women to get such good results from other people, because they are sympathetic, empathetic, and they deal with other people, looking for win-win situations. So nobody is cut out, and so those soft skills are a very very important part of women's battery of weapons. And talking about weapons, I want to tell you a story I remember hearing at school, would you believe? And it was that in the time of the Crusades, supposedly, there was a rapprochement where the leaders of the two sides, the Crusaders and the Saracens, met for a social interaction and a meal, presumably. But certainly, while they were there, the conversation got round to weapons. And the Crusader said, I will demonstrate our weapon. And he got his supporters to bring in a huge sword. It needed two hands to lift, and in addition, an iron bar. So they put the iron bar across two things, and then he struggled to get the sword above his head and bring it down with a crash and smash the iron bar. And then he turned to the Saracen leader and said, can your weapon do that? The Saracen leader didn't say anything. He just pulled out his thin scimitar, I think they're called, a thin bendy saw. And he got his supporters to bring him a cushion and stand it on the table. And then with one flick of the wrist, he sliced the cushion in two. And he turned to the Crusader leader and said, can your weapon do that? So I take that as a very good example of the masculine and feminine weapons. And in terms of the skills necessary, we obviously need both, because this competition between the sexes or the genders is very counterproductive and will not enable us to create the world we want. The encouraging thing that we can see today is that many groups of women are forming together to get things done in our society. I mentioned the Women's Equality Party, of which I am not as active as I'd like to be member, and I've seen them do tremendous things within the last 5 years. One forgotten cause they've adopted is women in the criminal justice system. Do you know there are women in prison for not paying their television license? Men don't get sent to prison for not paying their television license. So what's going on? There's clearly discrimination against women in the criminal justice system. But who knew? Until the Women's Equality Party connected up with various pressure groups who used to know and have started to represent them. The interesting thing is that women come together to create these pressure groups, protest groups, and they access the power of lots of other women to become formidable and hopefully effective, but certainly in opening people's eyes to what's going on that disadvantage women and their children in our misogynistic system. So how are we going to go about getting more effective midlife women into the arena? Well, the concept of the midlife woman is something which is quite new. Although I wrote a book called Love, Sex and the Midlife Woman, I didn't invent the term midlife woman. It was originally, or I'd say it was originally, I came across it when Marianne Williamson wrote a book, which she published in 2008, called The Age of Miracles, Embracing the New Midlife. And she put this proposition that women now have this window of 20 to 30 years between ceasing to be young women and becoming what would be called middle-aged women. on the way to being elderly women. And this has been an extremely useful thing because this window, which has opened up for women, saves them. What used to happen, lots of women used to make very considerable efforts to hang on to the attributes that they felt kept them young and attractive well into the 50s. They tried to, because there was nowhere else to go. Once you ceased to become a young woman, or ceased to be seen as a young woman, you were inevitably seen as a middle-aged woman. Now we have this gap, this 20 to 30 years for the midlife woman, which enables women to develop new roles and also sideline the issues to do with their sexuality. I see the midlife transition as an awakening activity. It's waking up from the fact that one was a young woman and doing all the things that were part of one's normal life then, into a new role. And I've likened this to the butterfly or the caterpillar going into a chrysalis and going through a process of change and then emerging. And it's not easy. A lot of effort is required of the creature inside the cocoon called a chrysalis in order to break out and then start to dry and spread its wings in order to become a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly usually. So in this process, I've identified a number of phases, the transition phases. The first one I call confusion and recognition. So midlife women start, or they don't know they're midlife women at this point because they're in the chrysalis. They start to realize that things in their life need changing, are changing, and certainly are getting very uncomfortable. The recognition is that they are starting on this midlife transition process, and that's a natural process, and that help and support are available to get them through it. The second stage I call understanding and coping. There are multiple issues that women have to deal with, not least the menopause, but that's by no means the whole story. These other issues come at different times and make this midlife transition very challenging. So during that time, if once women understand them, they then go through a process of saying, this is something I can change, this is something I can't change. And it gives them considerable comfort to know that they are on a journey and that eventually all the issues can be handled. In the third one, women have a lot more, reach the stage where they have more control of their lives. I call this one control and experimentation. So they can take some of the big issues in their life that need changing and do that. And also have time, space, and money to be able to experiment with things they always wanted to do to see if that represents something they would want to make a career of or a passion. And then the fourth stage I call purpose and passion. And this is when the midlife woman, having broken free of all the old things that held her back, is now able to find her purpose and with it, her passion. So those are the four stages in this transition. And what I hope we can do is increase the awareness among women who are starting on that journey that this is a natural process. Because the alternative is to say this is a midlife crisis. And without understanding what's going on, it probably will be. So I told a story in the first episode about a chrysalis struggling to break free and a butterfly flying past and seeing this chrysalis, floated down, landed by the chrysalis and whispered to the chrysalis, don't worry, you will break out of this and you will become a beautiful butterfly and you'll be free to go wherever you want. So there's a role for us both in being a chrysalis, if that's we're going through the process, or a butterfly if we've completed the process and want to help other women going through it. Why wouldn't we? So what have I done and what would I consider you might like to do to help midlife women through this process? Well, after publishing my book, Love, Sex and the Midlife Woman, well, I've got a copy here, have a look. That's what it looks like. Having published that book, I then started the New Midlife Women Community as a Facebook group in order to help and support midlife women. But subsequently, I realized that there were lots of midlife women groups emerging. A very good thing too, because it's all spreading the word. Um, but I was only really a pale shadow of the better ones of those, because I'm not a natural social media animal, and therefore I really couldn't do it as well as they could. So what I decided to do is look at what my role could be, and I realized that having been a teacher most of my life, um, I would like to use my skills in education in order to help midlife women on their journey. And so over the years, or recent years since I did the book, it's only 3 years, I've produced educational material, found inspirational quotes and references, and made encouraging videos to help women understand what is happening to them and how to help them cope better. Some of the titles are Men and Women Are Different, as I mentioned earlier, um, Changing Gender Roles in the 21st Century, Divine Feminine and Masculine, Can There Ever Be Peace Between the Sexes, 7 Reasons Why You May Not Be Attracting the Partner of Your Dreams, and 7 Steps to Surviving the Midlife Crisis. The one thing, however, that I know about the midlife women is that they are the busiest people on the planet. And they don't have much time to study stuff or really get involved in traditional learning study methods. So I've devised this drip method, which means that they get small pieces of information every few days, which don't take long to consume, but gradually change their awareness and their thinking. And then after that comes changing attitudes, and changing attitudes comes changing behavior, and changing behavior produces changed results. So that's a process I hope to do. And I've put all this together in a program called Discover the Midlife Woman Within. There is, however, a problem. That is that the women I feel I can most help who are starting this transition do not realize that they're starting on the midlife woman transition. In fact, they probably have never even heard the term midlife woman. So it makes it quite difficult to get them to self-identify, to realize what we have to offer them is what they need. So I've come up with this idea that people like therapists, coaches, consultants, other helping people, women, are encountering lots of midlife women or potential midlife women in the course of their work. And so if they introduce them to some of the ideas that I'm putting out through the Discover the Midlife Woman program, it will start them in their interest and encourage them to join the program. So there is a role for all of us in this midlife woman movement, which I believe is capable of changing the world, changing our society, and start local, changing our local society, changing our national society, and eventually moving to change some other societies that are badly in need of our help. And this is really supported by something that I heard the Dalai Lama said around about 2009, I think it was at a peace conference. He says, the future of our world is dependent on the Western woman. The future of our world is dependent on the Western woman. And I've rather added to that by saying, well, younger women are pretty busy on forming their partnerships, having children, creating a home, and doing all that necessary work. And it's good that they do, because we need the people. But they don't really have much time, with a few exceptions, to look outside that at the bigger picture and the outside opportunities that need to change things. However, once women reach midlife, they do have those things. And therefore, I would like to add to what the Dalai Lama said that the future of our society and our civilization is dependent on the Western midlife woman. I hope the Dalai Lama doesn't mind. I'll have to write to him and ask him. So there we are. This is the role that's available to us, to be the butterflies who become butterflies. We know we've been through a midlife transition, and we are able, therefore, to empathize with women who are just starting on the process. The fact that they're confused and don't have any idea what's happening to them, and they're not necessarily that ready to listen initially because they're so busy and so preoccupied. But that's why the role of a third person alongside them can help me and us move them towards understanding and the process of making this midlife transition easier for them. I call this, I think I said, the drip method. So I've just about come to the end of it. My final invitation, would you like to be a butterfly, aka midlife woman, who helps other midlife women on their journey? If so, you can contact me at jean@lovemidlifewoman.com, or you can go straight to Facebook and join our Facebook community, which is called New Midlife Woman Community, which is a group, so you join it. And if you want to know more about what I've been talking about, how you could help, and especially through the Discover the Midlife Woman Within program, then you can email me. Oh, I've just given you my email address, jean@lovemidlifewoman.com. And I will always happy to see you on Facebook in my personal profile, which is Jean Macdonald UK. So I've gambled through a lot of material today. I was anxious, as you see, having to look at my notes. I didn't leave anything out of importance. And I hope it's given you an impression of the way I see our world moving, the contribution that I can make, and hopefully the contribution that you can make. So until we next talk, this is Jean Macdonald, the Midlife Woman's friend and mentor, signing off for today. Bye.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.